Hey everyone, this is James Vang, and today we're just gonna go over some basic bench press techniques, and probably give you guys a couple tips here and there, just on like maybe grip, some give you guys some ideas on what you could do if you're kind of stuck on a plateau, or if you want to build more muscle, and things here and there. Okay, and hopefully you guys can all have an open mind, and we can kind of go on with this bench press discussion. Thank you. So first of all, I just kind of want to start off with the fact that your spine is kind of S-curved. So if you take a look at the middle part, from the side view, you can kind of tell there's like a big S curve on your lower back. So unless you're trying to bench press with your feet off the ground, that's the only way for you to keep your back flat. So sometimes it kind of puzzles me sometimes when I hear people say stuff like, when you bench press, why don't you keep your back flat? Well, if your feet is on the ground at any point when you bench press, then you already have a natural arch. When you think about trying to force your back flat on a bench press when your spine is not naturally flat, pretty much you're compressing your spine to become straight when it's naturally S curved. So in a way, that's a lot more dangerous than actually utilizing an arch. Now, the opposite of that is also kind of true. If you aren't flexible enough, or if you don't really know what you're doing, I don't really recommend you do an arch as high as mine. But you still kind of want to have like a slight to kind of like a medium-ish arch when you think about bench pressing. Okay, and we'll kind of go over that in a bit. Okay, so this is my current bench press technique for now. So as you notice, for my personal preference, I like to put my finger as wide as possible, my index finger on the ring. And as you notice, I'm hanging off of the bench and I'm sitting on my tippy toes as far back as I possibly can. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing my body underneath the bar while keeping my feet planted in the same position. Okay, so you're gonna see it again. Feet way back, head down, arch underneath. I'm gonna set my back into position, squeeze my upper back, right, super tight, and I'm gonna slide my feet as tight as I possibly can. Okay, now this is a super high arch. Now this is the technique that I used to utilize to maximize my arch. And with my current technique at this moment, I've even learned to get a benefit from not even having such a high arch. And by not having such a high arch, I've developed more leg drive into my bench press. And I was able to minimize my arch just a little bit by moving my feet further out, and this caused my arch to be a little bit lower. Now, if you are not comfortable or not as flexible to get an arch this high, then by all means, do the exact same thing, but just keep moving your feet further out until you're comfortable. And again, at the same time, you can always set your arch at a comfortable level, and that's comfortable for you. So when you do the bench press, you don't feel any aches in your lower back because again, flexibility and mobility plays a big role in being able to arch this high. And the only reason why I arch this high is because again, as a competitive powerlifter, I'm trying to move the weight, as much weight as I possibly can, from point A to point B. And within the rules of powerlifting, there is 5 points of contact for me, which is the head, the upper back, the glutes, and each of my feet. Now, as long as those 5 points are planted somewhere on the bench, on the floor, then I'm okay, which is why I bench the way that I bench. Make sense? Okay, so here's a visual so you guys can kind of see what goes on with my upper back as I set it in position. So I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades together as if there was a coin or a pencil that I'm trying to keep. Now imagine I'm keeping that entire tension all the way on the bench. I'm going to bring the bar to my chest, press out, and as I get up, you're going to notice my back is still tight. Now this is a very hard concept for most people to understand. So the best advice that I can give people is just to think about this concept of squeezing your shoulder blades together as tight as you can and as comfortable as you can, and utilize it in your press. Of course, you're not going to be able to do it the exact same way I do it. So, in many ways, you'll have to try and figure out a way yourself with your body type, with your arm length, shoulder, muscle size, and all of that, and really squeeze your shoulder blades to create the most compact platform for you to press weights away from you as it sits on the bench. And the way I think about it is I'm trying to suffocate the bench with my back. So just apply this concept into your bench press.
All right, so just really quick. Now, the reason why when you bench press, right, you want to kind of touch here versus kind of like up here is because just look at the angle of the shoulder, right? You know, when you think about the bench press, and in many ways, the chest is possibly the biggest muscle, right? That's involved from the front side. So if you're trying to bench press up here, which is kind of like above the sternum, right? Just look at where your elbows are going to be if you're trying to touch here. Okay? Now, if you're trying to touch here, you can see I get like a big stretch on my front delt. Now, that is the main reason why you want to do a bench press, which is to kind of, really focus on the front delt. And by all means, keep benching like that. I just wouldn't recommend going really heavy because it's such a sensitive area, right? So for me, when I think about bench press and when I want to find the perfect spot, the area that I want to touch the most is the area that gets the most recruitment involved with my chest. Does that make sense? So when you think about a bench press, there's two movements. The part where the chest gets the most involvement, which is the first half of the bench, right? Which, as you saw earlier, was kind of coming in halfway here. And then the second part of the bench press, which kind of involves more of the tricep and lats, right? Where you lock out and you flex. Now, the reason why the bench press kind of goes in a straight line and kind of back is because the first half of the bench, you want to use the biggest muscle, which is your chest. Once your chest is out of the way, then you use the other muscles, which is kind of like your triceps and your lats. And the reason why you kind of want to lock up here as well is because, look, imagine if I lock out up here, where's all the weight going to be? When you have 300 pounds, you don't want to hold the weight over here. Because again, the weight's going to fall towards your stomach, right? If you lock out over here, where the bar kind of lines up with your shoulder blades, when you lock out, a lot of the weights are going to be sitting right here on the bench. And that's kind of what you want. It's going to ensure like an easier lockout, and it's going to be a lot safer on your joints if you hold the weight kind of up here where your shoulder blades are at. So the idea is utilize the chest, boom, utilize the lats and the triceps, lock it out slightly up here, and let the shoulder blades and the bench hold the weight, not your joints and not your muscles. Okay? Now, in terms of grip, right? For me, I'm a chest heavy bench presser, so my grip is going to be a lot wider. So I go as wide as I possibly can within the rules of powerlifting. And within the rules of powerlifting, it is your index finger on the ring. Now this benefits me because I'm a big chest bencher. Now if you're a tricep bencher, then you might want to come in closer with your bench press grip, right? And if you're unsure, this is usually what I tell people. When you bench press, you want your wrists and your elbows to line up. So now imagine, for me, if I was to bench press, right? Since I'm more of a chest heavy bencher, when I come down, it's going to look something like this. Because this muscle right here takes a majority of the beating for me. Now, if you don't know if you're a chest bencher or a tricep bencher, you want to have a medium grip, so when you grab onto the bar, the tricep and the wrist lines up in an even motion. Now you'll know if you're a chest bencher from this point if going wider benefits your bench press more. Now, the same could be also said if you're a tricep bencher, if coming in closer will benefit more, as the tricep will get more activation from having a closer grip. Does that make sense? Now, again, back to the point of why you want to touch the bottom part of your chest. Now, just imagine this, right? I'm going to put my arm here, kind of like where I would hold a bar if it was going to touch kind of like where my chest is at. Now, I want to try to flex my chest as much as I can from here. Now, if you notice, in order for me to flex my chest muscles, right, it's a majority of my flex is going to be up here because my elbow is so high. I want to flex my chest, but I can't, right? So what do? My arm kind of wants to come down. So what if I bring my arms down here, kind of more like at a 45-degree angle? This is what they call by tucking your elbows, okay? You don't want to super tuck it. A lot of people keep thinking like you want to super tuck it. You only want to super tuck it if you're kind of learning how to bench with a bench press shirt.
One, two,
Let's go!
And since a majority of you guys aren't really going to be using a bench press shirt, you just want to have a 45-degree angle with your tuck. Now, when you think about here, now look how much stronger my chest is when my elbow's down here. I can flex it, everything feels a lot more powerful. Now imagine if I was to put the bar right back in my hand at the 45-degree angle, and I keep bringing it down to my chest. Where's it going to touch? Right at the sternum. Okay? So again, utilize the strongest muscles for the movement by touching here, which is the first half of the movement. Once you get past the point where your chest is no longer being utilized for the press, that is where you want to drive the lats and the triceps up and out. Okay? And at that point, you want to kind of bring it back to your chin or your eyes slightly. And that's kind of the bar path and kind of where you want to grip the bar when you bench press. Now, of course, the reason why you want to find the strongest position for your bench press, this is going to build the most amount of strength. Now, if you want to really focus on, individual, let's say, muscle activation and stuff like that, then you might want to, might not even want to think about bench pressing. You know what I mean? If you just want to really focus on your chest, then you might just want to think about maybe utilizing dumbbells or something like that.
almost failed right there.
Because again, when you think about a dumbbell, right? So imagine this is a dumbbell. Because it's not a barbell, when you bring the dumbbell down here, the dumbbell's not going to stop you. If you want to go deeper, you can. And if you want to go deeper, that kind of gives you a bigger stretch on your chest, right? Which is why chest dips, chest flies tend to be a better muscle builder for most people. Now again, the reason why you want to think about utilizing the most amount of muscles when you bench press is because in what position or in what real world activity are we going to utilize a bench press? If you are under any amount of crazy weight, most of the time it's probably going to be like you sitting under a car or something like that, right? And if you're on top of a car and the car is going to crush you, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to utilize my pectoral muscles, the same movement that I want to work out when I bench press. I just want to isolate the chest. That's not going to happen. If a truck or if a car is on top of you, you're going to utilize every single muscle to move that away from you, right? Which is kind of what we want to do when you bench press. You want to think about utilizing every single muscle because, again, the bench press is a compound movement for a reason. Compound meaning more than one muscle is involved. So if you want to tell me that you want to build the most amount of muscle by utilizing a bench press, then you're already wrong in that aspect. You might want to find a different exercise if you want to build a chest. But either way, I've been bench pressing with an arch for about 10 something years, and I think my chest build is okay. And that's all I really want. Again, this style of training where you're trying to build the most amount of strength is going to benefit football players. Again, when you're pushing someone, you're more focused on moving someone out of the way. If you have a lot of muscles, you're going to be slow. You're going to be less explosive, right? So why would you want to train and build a lot of muscles? Same thing with volleyball, right? If you want to hit a ball, boom, super hard, why would you want all that extra muscle in the way of your swing? You'd rather build strength, moving a lot of weight, and build that power. And so when you do jump, you have a stronger swing, you have less muscles that's in the way, but when you keep building muscle, it slows you down. Does that make sense? So again, if you're the type of person that's an athlete, someone who's going to benefit more from explosive movements, you want to utilize the powerlifting style of bench press versus the bodybuilding style. And again, bodybuilding style is not really that much different. Bodybuilding style just emphasizes less on the arch and more on how the chest feels when you bench press. And again, in my personal opinion, if you want to build a bigger chest, don't even bench press. Do dips, do dumbbell bench pressing, incline dumbbell pressing, and other movements like that. It's a little bit safer on your joints. You're utilizing less weights, more muscle activation, and yeah, that's kind of my point of view on that.
Peace.